Just when you thought your day really sucked.
You suck!
Here comes something to make it suck even more. It's a Lamont and Tonelli podcast.
Well, let me tell you this. I have never seen the excitement for a stand-up comedian from our staff. I've got Ben here, one of our interns.
Yeah.
He's gushing all. I haven't seen Ben in the control room for 7 months.
Yeah. I forgot that he was still an intern.
Exactly. All of a sudden, as soon as we say Chris Hardwick's coming in, man, there's Ben holding the webcam.
He would have thought there was free food in the studio.
Hey, Ben. Baby, Huey's gushing all over himself. Chris Hardwick, who was playing at Cobb's Comedy Club this weekend.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing good.
all right.
We were talking a little off the air, and I didn't realize until Baby Huey told me that you used to work in radio for a bit, right?
Yeah, man. I was at K-Rock in L.A.
Oh, sweet.
Like right before. It was just sort of like right as grunge was gliding to a halt, just like those last couple of years, and then I left right before that sort of like aggressive frat boy nut punching rock of Limp Bizkit came around, and so thankfully, because when you have to listen to the music of the station that you work at,
right? Yeah, exactly.
And if you don't like the format, that's not good.
Right.
So I liked K-Rock when I worked there, but then there were a couple years after it's like, oh, I'm glad I have to play that all the time, after I left. So.
And the reason I brought it up, you worked there with Jimmy Kimmel, right?
I did, yeah. Jimmy and I started around the same time. He might have gotten there. Jimmy and Carolla got there around. Well, Jimmy brought Carolla on to the show, so
right.
I was like, he was around there like '94, and then I came in like '95. So yeah, we all started, and then Jimmy left to go do Win Ben Stein's Money.
Yeah,
and I was working at MTV too, and then it just like got crazy for Jimmy. It's like Jimmy's now Jimmy.
Yeah,
it's weird.
His late night TV show.
Yeah, it's great.
And the deal with Jimmy Kimmel, our old boss here was the guy that fired him in radio and told him he wouldn't amount to anything.
Yeah, I think it was in Seattle. Yeah, he fired Jimmy from his first radio job.
First of all, in his mind, he might be like, yeah, I did the guy a favor.
Yeah, you're right. Probably.
I helped him. You're welcome, Jimmy.
Yeah, you're welcome. So now you got along with Jimmy, and Baby Huey wrote here that you hacked his old AOL account at one time?
No. He hacked mine.
Oh, he hacked yours.
And it wasn't that he hacked it. It's just that this was in '95.
Yeah.
Before we really understood much about, password protecting things and screensavers.
Yeah.
And so I was having an IM chat with a girl that I used to work with who had moved to the East Coast. And I got up to go to the bathroom, and I came back, and I was like, what is she talking? She was like, what are you going to do to me next? And I am, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And I scrolled through, and it was just all this, like, I'm going to crawl between the desk and bury my face here and insert tab A into slot B. And I was like, what the? And I look over in the corner, and Kimmel is, like, stifling hysterical laughter.
Oh, that is funny.
But which is a really mean joke, because then now I have this choice to make, because I can either keep this
keep it going,
keep this proto sex chat going. It was very early days of the internet, or I have to tell her like, oh, this is really awkward. And so I did. I fessed up and I said, this was really awkward. Although now I think she would have been really impressed, because I'm like, hey, guess what? Jimmy Kimmel just said
he was going to crawl under the desk.
Yeah, exactly. But at the time, that did not go over so well. I couldn't say, the guy who's going to go do Win Ben Stein's Money just had a joke at your expense.
Yeah. Hey, you also, and by the way, you're a host of a lot of TV shows, Talking Bad and Talking Dead on AMC. And Talking Bad is on after every episode of Breaking Bad.
Yes. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
How'd you get into that?
Well, it started with the Walking Dead after show, which was a couple years ago. I found out they were doing it, and I was a big fan of Walking Dead, so I pursued it and got it, and the show did really well. And so Breaking Bad's about to finish its series run, which is a bummer because it's a really great show. And they said, hey, would you want to do just a wrap-up show for Breaking Bad for the last 8 episodes? And I said, absolutely. So it's been really fun, and we've had almost the entire cast on. Cranston was on last week, but then we're also getting guests like Sam Jackson and Don Cheadle and Bill Hader and Dean Norris are on this next week. So we're getting really good guests, and it's a bummer to lose a show that you love.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, your dad, I don't know if a lot of people realize this, and by the way, we're talking to Chris Hardwick, who's playing at the Cobb's Comedy Club this weekend. Tonight, 8 o'clock, 2 shows on Friday and 2 shows on Saturday. your dad's a professional bowler, right?
He was, yeah. He's still alive, but
Wow.
he quit bowling. He retired in the
Billy
70s.
Hardwick.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right.
So, was he doing the TV deal, the whole bit, like you'd see him on TV?
Yeah. My dad was on TV in the 60s and 70s, and he's on all the Hall of Fames. And
Did he kick Earl Anthony's ass?
He did. Well,
Nice.
Earl, Earl came around. Earl was more of a 70s.
A little bit later.
70s.
A little bit later.
My
Yeah.
dad was like 60s, but I grew up around all those guys, and my dad still is one of the top. He was in the top 20 bowlers of history.
And ABC used to televise that stuff all the time back in the day.
Yeah. I was named after Chris Schenkel, who was the sports announcer, because he was friends with my parents, and so I was named after him.
So the reason I bring this up is Baby Huey said your dad was filming a beer commercial. Baby Huey did a lot of research for this interview.
Yep, 1969. My dad did a Miller High Life commercial. It's up on YouTube. I think it's on our Nerdist YouTube channel. But if you just look, Billy Hardwick, Miller High Life, it's fantastic. First of all, commercials were really long in the 60s. The commercial's like 2 minutes long or something crazy. But he picks up a 6-7 split, and then the funniest part about the commercials, if you watch it, he takes a sip of beer at the end, and then he starts to talk, and then the commercial fades out. And apparently he had lines at the end of the commercial, but he got so hammered taking sips of beer at 10 o'clock in the morning that they were like, just cut him off there. They cut him off twice. They cut off the booze. They cut him off on the commercial. So
did he wear the weird bowling clothes of the 60s and 70s too?
The bowling clothes in the 60s were actually really cool.
Okay.
They looked sort of like they sort of looked like a short sleeve mock turtleneck. Everything was very fitted.
Right.
And they were in good shape. Like they still kind of had to have this image of that kind of because bowling had a bad rap in the 20s and the 30s, and so in the 40s they made it teams, and they made everyone sort of look like they established leagues, and they made everyone dress like milkmen, and so they wanted it to seem more family friendly, and so that went all the way up until the 70s, and then the 70s just ruined everything aesthetically for everyone, and then it got kind of gross, and then it got kind of gross looking.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're a funny guy. You're playing at Cobb's Comedy Club this weekend. Shows tonight, Friday, and Saturday. Thanks for coming in here, man.
Thanks for having me.
All right,
Chris.
Another fine product from Uranus.
That concludes the Lamont and Tonelli podcast. To hear more and everything Lamont and Tonelli, check out the website at lntworld.com.